Awesome. All right. Everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. We have a great panel discussion set up for you guys today. We got Mike Hart and Vince Dongon with us. I am Ruben from Workamajig. Just going to open up on the topic a little bit, what we want to discuss today. Today, we're going to take a pretty freestyle towards this conversation. I'd love to hear a lot of feedback from Vince and from Mike. Yeah, like we said, there are some pretty significant changes happening in the industry, and let's see what we can take out of it. Yeah, just to start off, we've seen, really leading in from 2020. I guess I'm a little bit younger than you, Vince and Mike, but for me, 2020 kind of like started this like boom in the industry of like uncertainty. COVID came and hit us, and all of a sudden things changed and our normal life got disrupted. We were facing like unfamiliar challenges again and again. I'd say over the past couple of years, from my experience in the industry, the unfamiliar has become like almost normal. If there's not a crisis today, there'll be a crisis tomorrow. Running an agency through these times, from my conversations with primarily Workamajig users, it's been super challenging. All of a sudden recently we got hit with this new crisis, cross-border coming on, with the new tariffs coming into play. And I was like, you know what? It's time to jump in. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. Let's see what we could do to jump on it before to face this crisis that's in front of us. And let's jump on it before the next crisis comes up. So today we have for you Mike Hart, the CEO of Hart Inc., and Vince Dong. You probably all know Vince, but in case you don't, Vince is the founder of Advice Software and Consulting. Both of them actually bring a lot of experience and sharp insight into what it takes not only to survive, because we want to do a lot more than that. We actually want to evolve and embrace this and set up our agencies in a way that they could prosper and stay safe and comfortable for the agencies and all the employees during these times. I think at this point, we could say pretty clearly, the question is not if something else will shake up the industry again. It's just what's the next thing that's going to shape the industry. And I'm not going to try to figure out what that is, but we're definitely going to try to figure out what we can do to keep ourselves and our agencies safe and secure going through those times. Mike, actually, I did notice that you guys have been around, if I'm not mistaken, for something around 50 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not that old, but you're right. Yes. So I'm second generation guy. My dad started the agency back in 1965, and lost him at a very young age. I was in my 30s when he passed, diagnosed with lung cancer, and was diagnosed in May and gone in August. So he's been gone almost 27 years. But our agency's been around a long time, and we've seen a lot of stuff. That's for sure.
Cool. So what I've noticed with you guys, and again, I'd love to hear some feedback. Maybe later on we'll talk about it a little bit. It seems like you guys made some significant technology changes, somewhere timed just before COVID, if I'm getting it right.
Yeah, technology is a pretty broad subject, but yeah, we probably made a lot of changes.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm curious to hear, maybe a little bit later on, we'll ask you to talk a little bit about how you saw that technology changes were helpful for you for changing the way your agency runs.
Sure.
That I'd love to hear. Also like to touch a little bit on how leaders could build more stable, future-ready agencies, even when there are factors outside that they can't control. All right, so 2 quick points, and I'm ready to jump on. One quick point is I would love to keep this conversation today apolitical. I want to keep this solution focused. If anybody wants to talk politics, I'll drop my email address in the chat. And my wife thinks I'm a great listener, so you can test me out also. And second is questions. Anybody have questions? We have a huge attendance today. If anybody has questions, then drop it in the Q&A chat feature. We'd love to get your questions. We do have some questions that I'd like to cover, but I'm very happy to defer to your questions if you have any relevant questions. So drop them in anytime as we're going along. We'd love to hear what you have. Vince, would you mind to jump on and introduce yourself for a minute in case anybody over here is not familiar with you?
Sure. I'm Vince Dong, and I've been in this crazy business for 38 years. This year, I somehow magically became a senior citizen. Don't know how that ever happened. And in all of the years that I've been doing this with our good friends with Workamajig, this calendar year is the very first time I've ever seen the world have its new things thrust upon it. And I've seen so many people be reactive as opposed to proactive. And for those of you attending today, I was having a call with Esther and Ruben at Workamajig, and I said, I just had a client lose 1/3 of their business. It was put on hold because they are a B2B shop, and their clients absolutely were like deers frozen in front of headlights. And they said, what on earth should we do? And before I go into that conversation, I thought this would be an interesting piece to present to any number of Workamajig users. Ruben suggested that I bring a colleague with me that was an ad agency owner. And, I think it took me about 7 days to figure out who to possibly invite. And then lo and behold, Mike Hart came to my mind, and Mike is a longtime colleague, friend, client, and someone that's very, very, very wise in terms of thinking before he speaks. You don't get a lot of those people in the advertising business, ironically. So here we are today with a week's notice. And as I understand it, we've got dozens of attendees here. And I'm in agreement with Ruben. If you people have questions, if some of you people have magic bullets, we don't want to just do all of the talking. And I think I'll throw this back to Mike because he's got a live example of a colleague that has been directly impacted by some of the domestic policy changes in the US.
Ruben, you want me to share that or just wait for the questions?
Sure, no, that's good. Just introduce yourself if you don't mind for a minute.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone over here knows you, and then let's jump right in.
Yeah, Mike Hart, I'm CEO of Hart Inc. And I'm sitting in the beautiful city of Toledo, Ohio, over my shoulder there, where my wife and I have lived our entire lives. And we have offices here in Toledo. We have one in Columbus. We have a recently acquired agency or office now in Detroit, and we have a small office in Washington, D.C. And I don't want to talk politics either, but I can tell you a lot about it based on our experience in DC. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mike. Yes, so let's actually jump straight into it. What are some of the key challenges we've been hearing from agencies today regarding international business headwinds, especially in light of the recent tariffs?
So I will share that story that I shared to you guys before we hopped on. I got a good friend of mine that's in the federal contracting business. And on top of tariffs, we've got a lot going on here in the States with, and this isn't a political statement, but with DOGE and changes in leadership and whatever. And he's a good size agency. He's twice our size. And in 34 days, he lost $4 million in gross income. Vince, percentage wise, it's not the same as the story you just told. And their convenience contracts where they can give him 30 days and cancel. And he's got another one that's rarely large that's in the federal contracting area. So DC as a market, and I don't know if anybody on the call is from DC, is going to have some real challenges with the number of people on the streets, and it's affecting our business as well in the federal contracting area for those of you who do it, because there's a lot happening with change in this here in the States, obviously.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah. So
now, can I
couple more? Sorry, I was just going to couple more as I thought about this. So, I mean, pricing volatility is big right now because some of the things that we're buying from our suppliers are affecting us as agencies. And it's not just the agency business, it's a lot of business. And you can't always build those increases into pricing because I think there's some things you got to do to stay close with your customer. And I've seen some client hesitancy in spending. The consumer confidence index went down again in the US, and I think some clients are buckling down, and I think it's specifically because of tariffs, and there's a little uncertainty with those. And talent it's an interesting time too. We struggled where we had to do everything to hire people, but now I think how you handle your talent, if you do any offshoring with production, there's logistical hurdles. So there's a lot of things I'm seeing, including some shift in media spending because of these changing times.
Yes, definitely. I'm also hearing about shift in media spending. People are larger corporations are holding back on big ad buys that they used to just approve like pretty easily.
I concur, or shifting to more performance-based models and less traditional, which has been happening for a while, but I think it's happening more aggressively now.
I'm all
Got you, Nick.
for,
Yeah.
and moving to that point, this initiative that has been launched today is something I wouldn't mind you guys keeping going for the next little while, because the word uncertainty is one thing. We don't know whether this is going to be short-term, mid-term, or long-term. We've read so much about it in the press. It is something that is distressing for any number of ad agencies out there, because they don't necessarily keep a war chest of money in their bank accounts. And my client last week was flipping out about what to do. And when I said, control what you can control, meaning if you don't have 5 months of cash flow sitting in the bank and you are having to meet payroll each and every month, as the owner of an agency, you've got some difficult decisions to make. And the last thing you want to do is not be around once all of this settles down a little bit. And the worst thing about control what you can control, it really forces the owners to remain calm above all. I mean, if you've got a war chest in the bank and you have uncertainty for the better part of the next 6 to 12 months in the year, certainly you can weather that storm, but not every agency has got that war chest sitting in the bank. And I also thought a large association called the 4As, this is a wonderful opportunity for them, not just to contact all of their members, Mike. I think you guys are a member of the 4As as well.
We are.
To what extent they can lobby, if at all, or get the ear of someone, or plural, is something that off the top of my head is something, because there's certainly power in numbers. And if Mike decides to make one phone call, what impact is he himself going to have vis-a-vis that phone call? And again, while we are recording this, I haven't seen any questions come in so far. Do we have a magic bullet today? And it's more the, we hear you, we feel you. I'm not short of phone calls right now to field vis-a-vis clients that are very, very uncertain right now.
Got you. Yeah, thank you for that. Actually, I'd love to tackle this on two different angles. Maybe we'll do the first and then the second. The first thought that's kind of running through my mind is, what can we do to just boost our teams and our clients during these times? Meaning kind of weathering the storm, like kind of more from like a short-term perspective. Like, what can we do to help us out through the short term? And then afterwards, I'd love to discuss what type of more long-term actions do you believe agency leaders could take to kind of shore up their business and secure their agency a little bit.
So I got a couple points of view, Ruben. So, and Vince hit on it already a little bit, but I still have an email file with everything that happened during COVID. From the time we closed our doors, at some point I could talk to you a little bit about our board of advisors. It's been great for me. And it was, something we're never going to see again. But one thing that Vince said that I totally agree with is panicking and making reactionary cuts. I'd be careful with, unless, you lose a third of your agency and you don't have a choice. We doubled down on some people during COVID because I'm pretty conservative with our business and how we approach it. And we actually made really two great hires during COVID when things were down and our margins were down, because I think this is short-lived. And so, I would not react to immediate cuts unless you have to. And second of all, model a bunch of different scenarios. We did that in COVID. And if your gross income is $1 million this year, and some of you are sure much larger, we modeled 3 and 4 scenarios during COVID, and we're going to do it again to see if our gross incomes goes down 15%, if it goes up 15%, and how your staffing percentages that Vince beats into our head maintain, and as your business goes up or down. And then the third thing, don't just pass on the cost to clients because you're going to make them mad. And right now we got to focus on value as an agency, and clients don't want to hear it costs me more, it's going to cost you more. That's not the message in our industry we can get away with. So I would be careful don't panic with cuts, do good modeling, and don't just start passing costs along. Those are more short run things for me, Ruben, that might make sense.
Yeah, thank you. I love that.
Ruben,
Yeah.
I'll just trail onto that. Some years ago, Mike decided to create an advisory board, not as full-blown board members, but a council of some sort, if you'll call it that. And he handpicked a number of people for his company as outside advisors, and they hold him, the owner of the agency, accountable for his actions. We also like to call it a block of time every quarter to be able to poke, cajole, push around Mike, and really question his decisions, if not ask questions about his decisions. And one of the ideas that Mike triggered just now was, not enough agencies that I see out there have the thought or possibly the confidence of opening the idea up to having a board of advisors. And we're not talking about people that are not helpful to the cause. We are talking about picking the right individuals, and they would be individuals to help you as opposed to hurt you. And I'm not using the word the more the merrier, or the phrase the more the merrier. I'm using a group of people that certainly can be trusted advisors that know about somebody's agency. And instead of being alone and waking up in despair, having somebody, or plural, any number of people that you can call upon and say, what's something that could help me today with the troubles that I have presently?
Huge fan of that. And if anybody ever wants to talk offline, I'd be happy to share. But, at the end of the day, A, it's lonely at the top, and B, you need somebody to not be so nice and tell you all nice things, but to give you some honest opinions. And when COVID hit, and I don't relate these to COVID times yet, but it could get there. I mean, the first thing I did within 2 days of when everybody went home is I called our board of advisors together and asked for help and advice. And the 4 of them are all fantastic individuals. 3 of them in the industry, and one a former banker, gave me some incredible advice that I acted on, right? Not everything. So huge fan of that. And as you think about short and long term, it's something that you might want to consider.
And these
Nice.
advisors might actually give you some, I don't want to use the word hope, but some indication of the stretch period, the term. So certainly we are listening to economists. We're watching what the world has to do. I don't know that I would want to be a resident of Denmark right now. I mean, again, Ruben, I'm not getting political, but just saying. And if anything, it might put into perspective where you sit presently with your agency.
Yep.
And I didn't say
like
you call in a client of yours to say, hey, would you like to join my board of advisors? That's somewhat of a conflict.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah, you definitely got to pick the right people.
And no yes men, by the way, Ruben.
Yes, that's true. Awesome. Okay, so let's move on to some long term. I mean, I know I've been around and we've heard, okay, COVID we've been through. I think like the Gen AI phase also like came with this panic, which I haven't yet seen really make a big actual disturbance in the industry in terms of like layoffs and stuff. And then we got the tariffs that's hitting us now. Like, what could agencies do to future proof their business? I mean, I love the word future proof. I want to future proof everything in my life. But definitely when it comes to business, it's something to just shore up. What could leaders do to solidify their business, to weather this storm and upcoming storms in a more long-term direction?
Go ahead, Vince. I'll let you go this time first.
I wonder if it's not a bad idea for agency owners to not spend so much time looking at doom and gloom, but looking outwards and contacting colleagues. It's a little bit parallel-ish to the advisory board commentary we just made, and hearing from others that are not in despair, that are thriving in this economy, that are not watching an unspecified electric car company stock price go not just south, but like really south. And the watching Mike during the COVID times, not only did he hold his head up high and just remain calm, he was constantly shaking the trees, using that old communications device called the telephone, and talking to as many people as possible. More than anything, that is certainly something that one can control, the information that's coming into your head. You can choose to pick up the phone or not. And that way, you may not be just subject to all of the topics that are coming out of Fox or CNN or. You get to have an on-the-ground understanding of where people are with respect to their corporations as a whole. Number one. Number two, if you're the boss, you have to be in a very sincere, sobering leadership responsibility position. If you walk around your shop and say the sky is falling, what are your staff members going to think about you, Mr. Hart?
Yeah, some great points, Vince. So I thought about a few here. Some of these easier said than done, but diversifying revenue streams for the future. I had our first client reach out to one of our account people yesterday, Ruben, to your point, and telling me that they're using ChatGPT to develop creative work, and it was working much faster than ours. And I about passed out in my office. And it's a little bit out of panic by the marketing person for wanting to get something to the CEO, but that's the first. We're actually doing seminars with our clients on how AI works for us and how it creates efficiency and how it can create efficiency for you. And we've done it to one of our largest clients. We're doing it to our other large clients. So I think it's that partnership mentality versus sitting back and, as Vince said, being nervous and scared. I mean, we all get scared when things get tough, right? But you can't show it to your team because they see it instantly. So where you can diversify revenue streams and create some different ideas, I think is helpful. And we are making a major time and talent investment in AI because it's not going away, but we're training on the inside. Now we're starting to talk to customers as I share. I mean, it's just a remarkable tool, but how you use it right. Now is a better time than ever to, and this is not only for the short term, but Ruben, to your question about the long term. I mean, this is when you get out to see your clients. There used to be a Northwest Airlines commercial where a guy said, I just lost my business, and he handed out airplane tickets to everybody and said, go visit your clients. I mean, that was back in the 80s, I think, but don't underestimate. Clients are struggling as well, but wherever we can be a better partner, both short and long term, is good. And last but not least, I'm a maniac about new business. And as Vince talked about it in You know, every agency conference I go to, every forum I go to with our 4As, everybody's complaining about new business, looking for a silver bullet. But we have not stopped selling since we lost our largest client in 1991, was taken over by the federal government. And we don't always do it well, but when things are tough, don't put your head in the sand, but sell. We were fortunate to have won a nice piece of business on Friday. And I called, I was out of town, so I waited till Monday. And I wanted to share it with the staff personally, both here in Toledo, but across all our markets. So we got a Teams call. And Brittany, our HR manager, worded it tastefully so it didn't sound doom and gloom. Half the agency thought that something bad had happened because of these times, right? And I was able to share with them positive news, and we actually had a little champagne toast down in our tavern area here. But I mean, your people are on edge, your clients are on edge, so whatever we can do to keep them feeling as best as we can is really important.
You know,
I like that, Mike. Yeah, we just got a question from the audience that was asking, what are you guys seeing on getting new clients? Should the focus be on managing current clients or continuing to pursue new clients?
Yes, yes, and yes.
That was yes.
I mean, you know, I tell the story so many times, I referred to it a little bit, but when I joined my dad in 1983, there were 6 of us, and I was the 6th. And our largest client was 85% of our revenue. I hope nobody passed out there. And, you know, I might not be the brightest bulb in the deck, but I went to my dad and I said, Dad, we can't sustain this. And we were literally in their building, which is literally over my right shoulder. My dad was the spokesperson for the business, and we were like their in-house agency. Well, in 1991, the same year that I married my beautiful bride, they were taken over. It was a savings and loan by the federal government. And we went out and hired a new business guy who was not our best, but we have never stopped selling, I swear, since 1991. And we do some well and some not so well, but the industry stats show that your clients are going to turn over, or they're going to cut budgets, they're going to do whatever. So if you want to grow, you've got to turn on the new business machine every day of every week of every month.
Yes, I'll do the other end of the stick on this one, Ruben. You've probably heard it 1,000 times from me, but I'll put it into a different perspective. Mike is talking as an owner, principally responsible for the new business, heralding a brand new client that actually is a returning client.
Yep.
And
6 years ago.
And I come from it equally from a CPA perspective. And if there was a time for the finance person to really step up, to talk to the owner and say, here's where we are being challenged. We've only got so many months of cash flow happening here. This is a time for finance people to be super proactive instead of just producing financial statements each and every month and saying nothing, because there are massive financial ramifications involved during times of unrest, during times of uncertainty. And equally, that finance person has got to be as cool as a cucumber alongside that owner of the agency. So it comes with not so much severity, but it comes with the seriousness of having to take that leadership role in conjunction with the owner of the company as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that,
I
Vince.
agree. Yep.
That's great. And by the way, Mark, that point you made about seeing your clients in person, selling in person, that definitely resonates with me. You're probably familiar with this in Workamajig. We host boot camps, in-person training sessions. Obviously, it's not a moneymaker for us. It usually costs us money, but it's definitely our commitment to get out, to interact with our clients, let them interact with our support team one-on-one, spend some time with us. I'm actually flying out next week for it. But yeah, that's definitely a huge factor.
Yep.
Awesome. I love that. Somebody else from one of the attendees asked, where could we find resources, webinars about using AI responsibly within an agency? Interesting. I use it to create estimates faster, but I've had team members tell me they were losing business because a client said they could do it themselves for cheaper. I have my doubts about that.
I agree with the latter statement.
Interesting.
I agree with the latter statement, but I heard from a client yesterday they are. but I think it was just out of impatience. But we've got an AI SWAT team in our office. And ironically, our son works for us, who Vince knows quite well. And he's in his
Cool.
early 30s. So he's a lot more adept at technology than this gray-haired dude. But we are meeting regularly, and we are trying to train our people on how to better use technology for the organization. We've got a policy, we've got all kinds of stuff, and we could do a seminar on that alone. But there's so many efficiencies that it can bring to an organization that are really, really helpful. I made a speech to a class, or no, it's just a Chamber of Commerce a few months ago, and it was an hour long. I've never spoke for an hour like me speaking in my life. And I used ChatGPT to get me started, and then I personalized it. So technology is amazing, and there's so many places you can use it. We've got a list a mile long of things we're doing to implement in the organization to make us more efficient.
Nice. I like that.
Well, I know,
Vince, any reason?
I know it wasn't specific, but if somebody wanted to reach out, I'd be happy to share. But there's a lot going on in that area, and we're aggressively adapting where we can.
Amazing.
I'll add to that, Ruben. Immediately after this session, I'm having our very first inaugural Workamajig think tank group where I'm pulling together 12 ad agencies, and a lot of the focus will be on the accounting side, and we will plan on having this every month. And as an offering to the attendees, Mike, I promised them that I would give a little bit of a blurb of each person that's attending and the agency that they are working with. And last night, I went on a ChatGPT. I just typed in the email addresses of everyone, and I said, please tell me a little bit about these attendees. And said, once that was done, I said, now, please put this into a Word doc. I was almost going to ask for a glass of wine, but I thought, no, we couldn't deliver that. And all of that was done, nice and tidily. I didn't have to edit it at all, Ruben. And then I sent it off to the group so that they've got a bit of an understanding of where these people are coming from. So it's helpful for that. I'll add one last comment to your question is this. Mike hasn't brought it up yet, but I'd love to hear what he has to say about this. Agencies have a basket of a basket of clients. In times of life being unsettled like it is today, Mike, have you thought of contacting any number of your clients to say, hey, I'd love to go for lunch or maybe have a breakfast one morning soon, and just tell me how you're feeling at the present time?
It's a great idea. No, I mean, I spoke to getting out to see our clients, but one of my roles at the agency is to stay in touch with our larger clients. In fact, I've got a call with our biggest client on Friday, and I set regular check-ins with clients, and I want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. And
yeah, to that point, Ruben, we're having this seminar today that just was dreamt up a week ago. And it's for let's call it the brethren of the greater users of Workamajig. I'm taking it one level down by almost suggesting to the rest of the attendees here, we know that there's uncertainty. Do we know how well, or do we know how understood our clients are in terms of their understanding of uncertainty? That kind of a conversation, I know that Mike doesn't like me talking about unbillable time. It's like sticking a needle in my eye. Would be time well spent to really show, as an ad agency owner, you give a hoot about the business. It's not about the marketing dollar, which would only serve to galvanize the relationship Mike would have with his respective clients in the meantime. So I'm just throwing that out there as an idea.
I love that, Vince. Now, I think I'm the one thinking like an accountant, but I think that definitely goes back into the short-term thinking. Just weathering the storm, getting through it. That's probably a great tip that people could take home with them. Spend some time with your clients, hear what they're feeling, hear what they're thinking, hear how it's going for them, not just the cuts to your direct business.
I mean, and for Mike, I know that would be a challenge to brush up on your empathy skills, but I understand.
He beats me up all the time, Ruben.
Yes, awesome. We still love him.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, attendees, I have a couple more questions on my list, but if anybody wants to throw in another question or two, we'll get to it. We'll probably wrap this up in something like 10 minutes. So let's get to it. Technology. I love technology. So beyond Gen AI, which I think that we just covered pretty well, are there any other technologies agencies should be adapting to drive better team performance and improve client satisfaction?
Data and analytics and technology is such a challenging subject. But we're trying, and I would say we're not great at it, but we're trying, because when things get tough, back to the change in media spend and being more performance focused, I mean, people want to know if this stuff is working. So whatever analytics platforms you're using, how you're reporting, I mean, it's a significant place and it's hard to charge for. Everybody's got their own opinions on how to charge for it, whether you build it in or, you charge extra, but huge fan of analytics, and we're small, we're slightly under 100 people. But we're focusing on that a lot, and ultimately provide stronger insights to our clients, which is what we get paid to do. And then there's a lot of, and I credit you guys, and this isn't an ad, but having a good software system, right, and investing in it. I mean, it's an easy thing to blow off because it's not just the cost of the software, but it's the implementation of it and the time that's spent in it. But I'll tell you, back to Vince's comments about a good CFO, the more data you have at your fingertips on how you can run your agency, the better. And I've seen some agencies that do a great job at it, and some people that are using very simple systems and can't get anything out of it. So those would be two that come to mind. There's a lot of technologies out there that people are using. We invest lots of money in different stuff to make our teams be intelligent beyond Chat GPT. And I think there's a lot of those things you can look at, but there's a few from me.
Gotcha, I like that.
A couple of things on my end, Ruben, is trending. We're not necessarily just focusing on a program called Workamajig here. I love project type profitability trending. I love client P&L trending on a month-by-month basis, just to see how Mike is utilizing his staff, resources, who he puts on which clients, why he is burning crazy time on a client that is a pain in the ass. What magic has he performed to make 40% profit on a particular other client, and hear what things need to be done on that particular client. So we're back to that CFO position again, but the more somebody like a Mike can obtain critical trending data, the more he can make a decision about, let's go after something crazy like a trading desk operation. What's the investment cost? What are the margins, and how fast can we start making money? Those are questions that are needing to be answered at a finance level for Mike to say, okay, let's do this. And if we don't have that information and he's sitting there wondering, do we have the right bum in the seat? But that's another conversation for another day.
We did invest in, and thanks for bringing it up, Vince. We did invest in a trade model or a trading desk model. And but we hired 2 people and spent a year with those 2 people helping us put it online with not $1 to bill. And that's hard for any agency to do. And again, we're not super huge compared to some that we compete against, but I would say, and there's some risk involved with doing your own trade desk, because now you're taking responsibility for things being turned on and off, and there can be some catastrophes, but it's been a really good move for us. And it's something, if any of you are doing significant media, I would consider, but there's risk, but there's some rewards to do it as well. And frankly, benefits to your clients.
So here's where I'm going to single Mike out as more of a visionary than anything else, Ruben. Somehow he had prognosticated this technology thing was going to come around, and he said to himself, before too long, some of my work is going to be commoditized. He didn't know what the word was yet, whether it started with a C or an H or an A or a T. But then he came along with this idea going, I need to constantly think of different ways of making money while I'm servicing the client at the same time. So every once in a blue moon, I'll actually laud Mr. Hart. Today may be an exception, but congratulations on that prognostication, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's
Vince.
awesome. All right, another question from our attendees. Are you seeing agencies offer discounted rates or incentives to help ease pressure on clients?
I would say dramatically no. Now, I think you can invest in your relationships in other ways. Vince touched on it earlier. I mean, bring proactive ideas that you don't charge for, meet with clients quarterly, do things, but at all costs, I would not sell a discounted model, because then you're going to be like sorry, this one comes to mind, KFC, where you're waiting for the next coupon to come to the the house when things are good, let alone when things are bad. I mean, the one major housewares company who I'm drawing a blank on sent those $20% off. I mean, they literally they priced them out of business. They're gone. They're Chapter 11. So
Bed Bath and Beyond.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not.
right.
I'm not. They do have an online model still, but their stores are all closed. We are not the cheapest. We're not the most expensive, but you got to sell value. And I've not heard any friend that's done that yet. I hope not.
I have some agencies where they are rather pinpointed with the word discount. We're not talking about across the board discounts. If they see an opportunity that can grow into something, they can certainly position the estimate or the SOP to say, normally it would cost $100,000, but we'll invest $25,000 into you on this particular project, but not across the board. We have this phrase, Ruben, in the world called desperate people do desperate things. And that question that came up sounded a little bit desperate to me.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yes, I like that. All right, Mike or Vince, I do have a couple more questions I wanted to get to, but I think we're gonna cut it out over here. Any other thoughts you want to share before we close out today?
No, we're all in this together, and it's not an easy business model. I heard there's an agency in our town that I believe is closing actually Monday, and one of the clients reached out to me. That's why, and they're a good size shop. The best advice I get is going to trade meetings and going to forums and going to associations and commiserating with men and women that run agencies, because you can learn so much from something that somebody else is doing that you haven't thought of, just like this call's doing, Ruben. So stay close to friends in the business. I got a lot of them around the country, and I'll call and say, hey, how are you handling this? How are you handling that? And it's always helped me immensely.
And we're talking about productive help, where Mike was actually describing Alcoholics Anonymous earlier. But we really want to go after these trade associations, go after our colleagues, our confidants, people that have something to say, instead of looking up there and saying the sky is falling. We will get through this, as painful as it presently is. And you are in charge as an owner of deciding your own fate or your own success. And Mike's point about we're all in this together, somehow, I mean, if anybody wants to reach out to me, you know how to get a hold of me.
Yeah.
For sure. I love that. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mike, for jumping on with us today. That was great. I learned a lot. Thank you,
My
Vince.
pleasure.
It's always a pleasure getting on with you. Yeah, there was definitely more we wanted to cover. We're not gonna get to all of it today. If you guys want to hear some more content, we've got a lot of content constantly coming out. But we've got something special that we're doing with Vince pretty soon. In May, we're gonna make a pretty big push on a 4-week online workshop. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. If anybody wants to check it out, see if it's something you're interested in, you're definitely welcome to join us. And yeah, thank you everyone for coming on.
Okay.
See you guys.
See you guys. All right. Bye-bye.